there's such a denial. Like you always talk a lot about truth. And sometimes we don't get, and I might be jumping out of our notes, but I am flowing too. We might get to the point where we don't change because we won't tell ourselves the truth. There's a lot of lies that we have to maintain to stay in dysfunction, to stay stuck in things that are not producing the purposeful life or bringing the life that God died for us to have. We lie to ourselves.
Yes.
And we won't face the truth. And the one truth easily is that because of the fall, we're impaired. And change is just, you can't live, if you're going to please God, you can't live without change. Like we need to put change in our regular rotation, and we need to embrace it, and it's not a bad thing.
Right.
Because who wants to stay in this fallen state? Who wants to stay, even though you might be comfortable? But once we admit, like, change is good because we're getting back to our flow state.
Right.
Which is that relationship with God, that purposefulness, that Eden. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No.
That's good to me. You sparked thought.
That Eden place, that place where we had to have this relationship that gives us the ability. I was just thinking about the scripture where it said they walk with God in the cool of the day. Just chilling. Life is abundantly, it's supposed to be a place where we get to chill, not a place where we stay constantly agitated, because it wears on this thing called the flesh. If we don't get in that flow state, I think we mentioned a couple weeks ago about the God zone. If we don't stay in a place where God is always communicating with us, but we're in the state where we can hear God communicating with us. He doesn't have to say, "Where are you?" He knows where we are because we're in our rightful place. We're in the position to produce what it is that He has for us to produce. Because if we're not in that position, then we cannot receive the resources, the things, the creativity, the mindset that we're going to need to produce.
My God. Now, this is a hard one for a lot of people. Why do you think people stay stuck in their fallen state of in relationships, careers, just in that broken down, fallen, dysfunctional state?
I believe it's a lot to do with the mindset. The mind gets lulled to sleep, it gets complacent, it gets to a place where it embraces the thing that is harmful. It's almost like, again, back to Stockholm syndrome. It's not that they have a person or a kidnapper or somebody that's holding them in place, but they do, because that mindset is holding them in place. And next word is desensitized. They become desensitized to the things that are around them that show them every day, this is harmful for your life. As many of the communities that we know about that would be considered urban communities or ghetto communities, why do people stay? Why don't they do something to move themselves to a different place? Well, because the mindset says, this is how we are, and we're going to accept this. And it's really sad.
So tell us about a season when change completely altered the direction of your life.
Oh my goodness. So that is always vivid. When I was abruptly released from the military, and I wasn't released because I did something wrong. I was released because I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk for 4 months, and due to an injury that I sustained in the desert, in 97, which is weird because it wasn't until 2002 is where my legs made a choice and said, well, we're not going to carry you anymore.
Wow.
So at that time, meaning I could not be a soldier because I couldn't fire a weapon and I couldn't get in a foxhole. That's one of the determining factors of you being a soldier. So they sent me home, and at that time I said, what are you going to do with your life? I had no idea, but God knew, because somehow, some way I met this chaplain, and he said, do you want to be a mentor at the jail? I said, why not? I don't know what else I'm doing. So in the cliched term of pain produced purpose, that is an actual for me. When I went to the jails and started mentoring and teaching, I realized who I was.
Right.
Even though it took some time to fully grasp it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that was an abrupt change. Now what about a change that you made? Not that something was made for you.
Well,
that you had to make. And then can you tell us, like, how did you know it was time to change? A change you made, and how did you know it was time to change?
oh boy. Okay. So a lot of things I'm thinking of, they involved other people. This may seem small to some people, but I had to change my mindset. While I was in the military, I was doing one job. I was moved from one job to another. The person I was serving prior to that thought because I had been his top person before they moved me, I would do the same thing for him. I would spend all the money on him, basically. And I was like, sir, I cannot do that. So he came after me. He wanted me moved out of the building. I became not angry, but I was mad. So I figured I'm going to get you back, and I started having an attitude. And God gave me that tap on the shoulder and said, I'm not going to change nothing for you until you change your attitude. It's like, wow. But I didn't do anything. But I had to change my attitude. So I had to put something in place to make things better for me. So I creatively thought of everybody, every time you come pick up something, you have to sign for it. I didn't care what it was, you had to sign for it so that I could prove that I was doing my job.
Right.
Shortly after, I was moved to a place called Fort McNair, which is in Washington, D.C., which is for those who may or may not know, it's on the Potomac River at a place called Haynes Point. It was a beautiful scenery. It was where the generals lived. I got to come in and watch TV every morning. Then shortly after I was there, they took the dentist out of there. It was only one at the time. I was a dental hygienist, and then I started running a dental clinic. They moved him to the Pentagon, which is where nobody wanted to go, which is part of the story I left out. They tried to send me to the Pentagon, but God said, no, we're going to put some people in here who serve God, and said, no, she outranked so-and-so, so we're going to move so-and-so to the Pentagon and put her at Fort McNair. It was the best duty station ever. But because I had to change my attitude.
Right.
I had to change my mindset to say, I'm here to please God. I'm not here to please man.
Right.
And I need to be able to demonstrate that. I need to change and show people so that, guess what? When people say, I can see the works of your Father.
In you, yeah.
In you.
Yeah.
Because there were people who did experience me not being so happy. And then one day, I took the opportunity to grow.
Right.
And that, I believe, was part of me being catapulted in more of a leadership role, more of having an understanding of what it meant to run something that was for millions of dollars.
Wow.
So there was a lot of growth stages in that, but I had to change my attitude.
Right, right. And that's just like God. I can think about while I'm saying this, for me, I can remember in speaking of how, like, the adversities that come before change, it's almost like the nest, and you know that a change is coming, whether it's voluntarily or God makes the change, the sign is usually discomfort.
Yes.
And God uses that, because I had one job where we got a new boss, and our other boss had been just so wonderful. She was communicative, she was understanding. We got someone, and now looking back, she was just nervous and she wanted to do a good job, and it was probably her first time having a job in that type of environment where everyone around me was crying and upset, and I'm not the type that won't speak up.
Right.
So I asked for a meeting. And you know what happened, right?
Go ahead, tell it.
So I asked for a meeting, and so I became the fall guy. I got fired. We never had the meeting. She had her boss there, and they used me as the example, because everybody that was unhappy, and everybody eventually left. But that change, even though it hurt, even though it was embarrassing, it catapulted me into working in the psychiatric hospital, where I got my skills, where I can do anything now in mental health, because I was baked. I call it the Iraq of mental health. I got to see every disorder. I got to learn about conservatorship. I got to learn about the chronically mentally ill, but it was a change that was birthed out of pain. And sometimes even, you know that it's time to change when the brook runs dry. That's relationships, you know, and I see you laugh, so you're gonna have to talk about it.
Right, I know, because when you said the brook run dry, I just immediately saw like a faucet being turned off. And there's no more ability to be in a flow. Now there's just this rocky road with stones and, just rough terrain that now we have to walk through on our own. But if when the river is flowing, there is the momentum. And I always say that we have to keep moving.
Yeah.
We have to stay in the momentum of God's flow. The Spirit of God is always moving.
Yeah.
But if we find ourselves causing ourselves to be stuck, that's how you do it. You want a fast way to get stuck? Decide not to change your attitude. Decide not to change your mindset.
Right.
I heard a program one time where the gentleman was talking about some areas. He says, it's not the inability to learn that people are having in certain areas. It is the ability to believe that you can learn.
Right.
Because somebody told you that you couldn't, or you cannot exceed this level of life. And that is the worst. That is so far from the truth as well.
Right.
Because we are created in such, oh my goodness, vastness. When you look at a mountain, you look at an ocean, when you look at the sky, understand that we have that same capacity on the inside of us to be just as big.
Yeah.
However, yes, in a different format. No, we're not a mountain. No, we're not water. It's a visual to give you an understanding of how big you can be if you just create in your mind.
Right. And I would say, the pastor gave a scripture about something. I hear things in passing because I'm next door taking care of the kids, but I heard something about planted by the rivers of water.
Yes.
And so that water brook, that water brook, God gives us seasons. Sometimes he just allows us to sit in circumstances and he flows. We can be in an abusive relationship. We could be in a relationship that's not fruitful, or we can just be in a job that's not fruitful. And he allows us, he graces us. That's the common grace of it.
The grace.
But when the brook runs dry, and that is painful, because that is, that means that you're going to you can stay and you can dry out, and you're not connected to the flow. We get to look at relationships that are no longer in the flow.
Right.
We get to look at jobs that are no longer in the flow, and people might not understand it, but you feel it. You feel it. You feel, because when even naturally we become dehydrated, our bones, we get Charlie horses, it affects the pain in our body. There's so many things that happen when you're not hydrated.
Right.
And people, you change when you heard enough, you know enough, and you're motivated enough, Maxwell says. So when pain, if you're experiencing the discomfort and the pain, and you're just trying to be faithful, you're trying to hold on to that finance, that job, or that relationship, at least pay attention. Change is calling.
Change.
Pain is not normal, but we get normalized to it.
Yes, desensitized.
Desensitized, like you said.
You become, this is the norm. No, that's not the norm. To walk around miserable is not the norm. To be in a constant state of pain. Yes, things happen and we may have some painful moments, but life itself should not be a constant flow of pain. And I'm not saying that we won't have seasons of disappointment or seasons where things are just not the best that they could be. However, in those seasons, we're taking the opportunity to say, well, I wasn't here in this season last year, so how did I get here and how do I get from here? And as we've been hearing over the past few weekends, I just heard it again, don't fight from the standpoint of victim, fight from the standpoint of victory. We've already won. We already, and now it's time for us to go in and pull. I have coined a phrase a long time ago where I said, life will be hard, but sometimes we just have to, the thing that's in us let me back up. The thing that's in us may seem hard. That's where we have to go in and pull harder. And that's going to take some effort. That's going to take some energy. That's going to take some want to. That's going to take consistent love for you as a person to say, I can't stay here. If we're having financial difficulties, that is the moment where we say, what can I do legally that is going to produce a better financial situation for you and your family? And there are many things to do. We may have to take on another job. That might hurt. That might be a sacrifice. But if we steward it right, because that's, I think, another area. We don't do that. We just willy-nilly doing stuff. Flying by the seat of our pants. Let's have a plan. This is not all about life went crazy and I don't know what to do about it, so I'm just going to throw some toilet paper on the wall and see what stick. Have a plan. These are things that make life easier, and they're really simple, but we don't want to do it.